Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Apollo 7 here, and this is Bronze Stream, where we're going to be watching a couple pro players and just watch the buildings and the units that they're making and try to demystify a little bit about exactly what's going on when you're watching a couple pro players. So if you're going to be in the right place here, if you have no idea what I would mean by starting with Blink Stalkers and then converting to High Templars Archon Toilet. If that made no sense to you, you're in the right place. If that made sense, well, you're going to be a little bit bored here, because what we're going to be looking at, each individual unit and building that this player is going to be making today. Today, we're going to be looking at SKMC. SK is the name of the team he's on. MC is the actual player. He's a Korean player. He's wonderful. This is the first game of the finals of the Red Bull BattleGrounds against STBomber that happened in Austin, Texas. So there is definitely, obviously, going to be our Protoss episode here. Now, the reason why some people might want to play Protoss is because it's a very pretty race. At least that's what my wife says. It's very pretty. It's very shiny. There's lots of... It's definitely that high fantasy one. So a lot of people really kind of attract to that. And there's some really cool mechanics of the Protoss race that we're going to see. So we're just going to go ahead and get this game started. We start with our main building. In this case, it's called the Nexus. The Nexus makes our probes. There's the good luck from SKMC. Our probes are these little guys going back and forth. They are going to be the units that we're going to be using to mine our minerals. Here's our minerals down here, and mine our Vespene gas from right here. Probes also we're going to be using to be making all of our buildings on there. So here he is, just making probes, making some more probes. Here in a moment we'll see him start creating a new thing. The unique thing about the Nexus for the Protoss is it has this energy. Every kind of main building has this energy here, and what the energy can do for the Nexus is do what we call a chrono boost, which increases the time that it takes, decreases the time that it takes to make a particular unit. This could be done on itself to make more probes. This could be done on another building to create more units. So there went that probe, and he's starting to build a building. Now notice he started to build a building and just went away, but this is still building. This is the unique thing about the Protoss unit, is that they start the building and then they can go back to doing whatever they want to do, whether it's make more buildings or go back to mining. This first building that the Protoss is making is called the Pylon. This is the food source for the Protoss army. So up here in the top we have our food source. Right now he's 11 of 18. So you can make an army value of 18, but there's only 11 available right now. These pylons help make more food. It's called psi because it's like psionic energy, but we could really just call it food, and we'd be able to get an idea. So there's the chrono boost working right there, churning out more probes much faster than it was before. The Protoss also have a very unique thing when it comes to their buildings, and it has to do with these pylons. Now I know this is kind of it looks like a kind of a weird place. It's kind of far away from anything, and some people would have been like put this other building like right here, but why over here? Why that? And that has to do with this circle right here. All of the Protoss buildings, save for the Nexus and the guys that are going to go in here on the visors and the pylons, have to be inside the range of a pylon. So the gateway, had to be close enough to the pylon to get powered. If this pylon were to disappear because it was being damaged, and get destroyed, this building would no longer be usable. So and it's very important that we don't lose, especially these types of buildings, because this is the gateway. This is the main unit producing structure for the Protoss. We're going to see here finish up here in just a second as he's continuing to make more probes, and he's making over here an assimilator. Assimilator is for our Vespene gas, so now he can start sending probes into the Vespene gas assimilator there and bringing it back to the Nexus, so that way he has that particular resource. A Protoss is a very gas heavy unit. So there we go. We got our gateway done. Our gateway makes actually most of the units that we would see in a Protoss army. We got our zealots or zealots, depending on what part of the world you're from, our sentries, our stalkers, our High Templar, and our Dark Templar. Zealots are going to be our primary unit. You see, right now it's the only one that we can make, because the Protoss army requires other buildings, like the Cybernetics Core, to allow buildings like the Gateway to make them. So our Cybernetics Core is just being warped in here. As soon as that happens, we're going to be able to see a lot more units that the Gateway will be able to make. So you can place in some pylons just around, so that way he has not only that food, but also has the ability to make that. So here we go. We got a Zealot coming out here in just a second. And our cybernetics core is done. So in addition to letting our gateway now create sentries, which is a very defensive unit, throw up wonderful shields to protect the army or to just block enemy unit. We also have the Stalker, which is a ranged unit. The Zealots are a melee unit. They can only hit things in the ground in melee range, while the Stalker is a ranged unit, can hit the ground and the air, and is a very fast and mobile unit. Our cybernetics core also allows us to do upgrades for our gateway units, so increase the armor and the weapons. Sorry, of the air units. Sorry, not our ground units. Our ground units are going to come from other place. So it also does some research. The big research for the Protoss army that pretty much every Protoss does, actually I can't think of a single game where the Protoss has not researched this, called Warp Gate. What this will do is this will allow this gateway to turn into from a gateway to a warp gate. So right now you notice how this gateway here is training a sentry, and the bar is filling up, showing us exactly how it's being trained. As soon as this is done, the Protoss will be able to warp in sentries and zealots and stalkers really as often as they want. There's a little bit of a cooldown on there, but much faster. They won't have to wait for this progress bar to fill up. They'll just be like, hey, I need some zealots. Boom! There's a whole bunch of them based off of how many gateways they actually have. So we're going to see how that kind of works out. Here we go. We got over here, he's building his expansion. He's building another Nexus. Nexus, like all of the other town buildings are very expensive. So it's a big investment to expand. You have to know that you're not going to be tapped anytime soon. Little sentries just going out. Look at it. He's so cute. He's little zooming around. Anyway, okay, let's get back to the game. All right, so what else are we building here? We're building another assimilator. Warp Gate is just about done. See, this is common, and this varies by playstyle, but Protoss will use that chrono boost that we were talking about to speed up the production. That would work on this upgrade. So some Protoss like to spend as many chrono boosts as they can on here to get this warp gates out much faster than normally expected. But sometimes you just want to, spend more chrono boost to make more probes so that we have a better economy. This is the trade-off when you're playing Starcraft. It's like, okay, well, I can build a really big army, but I can have a really crappy economy that's hard to sustain, or I can be, have a really good economy, but sometimes I'm going to be at a disadvantage. So it just kind of it balances out. So there we go. Got a couple more gateways. They like to plump these kind of gateways next to each other just because it keeps things nice and neat. And also, we notice we have a couple pylons here that there's a lot of overlap. You see how we have this nice overlap here? This is so that way it's less likely for these buildings to become completely unpowered, because all they need is one pylon. So if, like, for example, if this pylon were to get destroyed, only this gateway would turn off. But these would stay on. This one would be able to power this one. So this would be a very important one. It's kind of funny to watch a game and have like a whole bunch, like 5 gateways all of a sudden just get powered down because they only had one pylon there. So Cybernetics Core is done researching warp gate. And here we see the gateway turning into a warp gate. Morphine. Insert Power Rangers joke here. Got a little probes here being transferred down to the natural expansion. A little power. So there we go. So this is now how units are formed in this Protoss army. No longer are they going to have to click on this and then wait for that bar to fill up. Now, as long as they're inside of that power, that power field, again, so see how important the pylons are? They will be able to warp in other units. So there we go. You see that goes much faster. There is a cooldown on the warp gate. I don't know if I'll be able to see it here or not. I can't really see it. It's a several seconds, so it's not like they can just constantly pump out units. The units cost the same as they would if they were being trained normally, but obviously this is much faster. And the chrono boost does actually affect that cooldown. That was not a Protoss thing. That is a Terran thing. At some point, we'll probably talk about that, how that works out. Remember to go back and look at that one. So there's that chrono boost again on itself. That's the blue swirly stuff, making more and more probes. So let's see here. What do we got? We've got some other simulators going on. No, and I think that's pretty much going to be it for this particular battle. So let's take a look at some of the units that we have going on here. We have our zealots. We talked a little bit about that. Zealots are kind of fast, and they do a lot of damage. We have our sentries. The unique thing about the sentries that people love are these force fields. They allow the army to be kind of cut in half. The opposing army by putting up these force fields, or to block the progress. So like, for example, this little choke point right here is very, very handy for Protoss because they can throw some force fields down. And then we have the Stalker. Our ranged unit. Now, every one of these units may notice that there is a blue and a green bar above their head, and then we also have the purple one when it comes to the sentries. All Protoss units and buildings have a shield. So they have their shield, and then they have their health pool. So they're a little bit lower health than other units because the shield can recharge over time. Like this guy, we know he got damaged before. We saw him get damaged a little bit before. Shield damage, whoop-de-doo, they just hold back for a little while, and then they're fine. They don't have to take more damage. Another building, we got a wonderful building here called the Robotics Facility for our Protoss. This makes, as you can guess, kind of the robots of the Protoss army. So we have our Observer. Observers are very, very fun. They are invisible units. They fly, and they give you vision of their surroundings, just like any unit. But they're invisible, so the opposing army can't see them under certain special circumstances. And we'll talk about cloaking a little bit later. So there goes. So there he goes. So MC here wanted to figure out what's going on with his opponent, and so he's sending this observer, and he's going to send him like all the way over here to look at, just like peek into what the Terran is doing. So that way he has an idea on what's going on. Any other new buildings? There's our Forge. These and our Twilight Council. These are 2 upgrade buildings. The Forge, all it handles is upgrades. It will do our weapons, our armor, our shields, so that way those units become much more powerful. And then our Twilight Council allows for our gateways to make to get some upgrades for some of our gateway units, like the Stalker, for example. And it also opens up the ability to build other buildings too. So like if, for example, the MC wanted to create some of the Templar units, which we're not going to see in this game, I think, they would need to have made this Twilight Council first. So here is he making what we call Blink. Blink is a unit for the Stalker, and so we're going to see how that finish up. And then they call it its actual name is Charge, but everyone just call it Zealot Legs because here you go, it's little legs of the Zealots. This increases the speed of our Zealots, so that way these guys look as they're running faster. Plus, they'll actually, when they start to attack, and if they're in pretty much aggro range, they will speed up for a couple seconds just to catch up with the unit, make them very, very powerful, so it's that the opposing armies can't get any free shots on them while they're getting into melee range. Let's see, we got a couple more. What do we got? Gateways? Yep, gateways. Gateway. See all these gateways turning into warp gates. So now he has how many does he have? 1, 2, what, 8? Yeah, 8. 8 different gateways. So he'll be able to warp in like right in this area if he wanted to, 8 units, whether that be Zealots, Stalkers, or Stalkers or Sentries. Can't make these right now because we don't have the appropriate buildings. Each one of these requires that building. So like, for example, when we had here, this Cybernetics Core is what allowed the gateways to make Sentries and Stalkers. The High Templar requires a building called the Templar Archives, and then the Dark Shrine for the Dark Templar. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Lots of Stalkers, fun. And let's see, we got a probe out here, just keeping an eye on things while the Terran is trying to encroach on our army. So I want you guys to try to see Blink in here. We'll keep an eye on everything. I highly recommend, we're not going to finish this game probably, but I'm going to highly recommend that you check out the full cast from the Red Bull BattleGrounds. This is game 1 of the finals of MC versus Bomber. Go watch that cast. It was a wonderful series. It was a 6 series. 6 was it best of 9? It was a lot of games. I was up very late that night, so definitely go and watch those because it was a good game, very, very entertaining. So there's those warp-ins. He saw, oh, I need some units down there, and he had the ability to, so I'll go ahead and warp that in. So when we look at this probe now, we see that he took no actual life, but he took some shield life, and that shield here is going to slowly start to recharge. There it goes. Okay, as he builds a Nexus for his expansion. Enjoyed this one, watch out for the Terran and the Zerg videos from the Red Bull BattleGrounds series, and we're going to be going there. So I hope you guys learned something. We didn't go through all of the units for the Protoss army this time because not all the units were created in this particular game. So we're going to be watching more videos. I'll be going through a lot of the same stuff, but good hashing. So definitely go watch the games, and I hope you guys had fun.